Welcome to What's Trending with Tire Review, presented by AAPEX. I'm Maddie Weiner, and on today's podcast, we're joined by Tim Winkeler, President and CEO of VIP Tires and Service. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Maddie.
Appreciate you being here. And Tim, I'm really excited to talk with you today about the Right to Repair initiative happening in Maine. I know you and your team at VIP Tires and Service are really leading this initiative. So just to back up and give some of our listeners and viewers just some history around this, I believe it was August last year that the initiative to get Right to Repair ballot referendum was announced. You all secured the needed support from the Maine Secretary of State. And then the next step was to gather signatures of registered voters that would support this. So you all did that. And so I guess from here, what are the next steps for you guys in this push to get this Right to Repair ballot referendum passed, I guess, in Maine?
Sure. Yeah, well, to take those data points and fill in the rest of the story. So we got approved in late October to go collect signatures. We had to collect a minimum of about 65,000 signatures across the state.
Okay.
And within 3 weeks, we collected 75,000 signatures. So
wow.
We had 90 days. We had 90 days to do it. And it took us 21 days. So there were signature collectors at all the auto parts stores, all the repair shops like VIP and other repair shops, as well as we went to polling locations during the elections in November. So we collected over 75,000 signatures. Those were all presented to the Secretary of State in Maine. And we just, within the last couple of weeks, we received that, the signatures are valid. They've certified them. And so this initiative, Right to Repair, is going to be on the ballot in Maine for November 2023.
That's very exciting. Yeah, that's great. And I know this follows other the Massachusetts initiative, which we'll talk about later. And there's a new one in Maryland as well. But I'm curious, you mentioned getting those signatures. So as part of Maine's Right to Repair coalition, what measures are being taken from now through sort of election time in November that, are making sure voters know about this issue? And how are you guys really approaching this with consumers who may or may not be that in tune with their vehicle care and how that all works?
Sure. Yeah. So, for the next several months, what we're really doing is just there's a grassroots organization we work with. We've got these large Maine Right to Repair posters with a QR code and all that, and a website on them. Those are up in every VIP location. They're up in every Napa, every O'Reilly, Advance, AutoZone, all the big parts manufacturers and companies, the retailers that are supporting this, as well as all the repairers like VIP and others. So really right now it's more passive in terms of just getting people aware of seeing these signs and aware of the fact that there is a right to repair initiative that's going to be on the ballot. I myself and a few others have made some media appearances on either different podcasts or state level organizations that we're members of, where we're spreading the word through. And then there's a whole plan come late summer, early fall. Obviously, that's when the real awareness campaign will begin, and that's when we'll start to do a lot more activities around making sure voters are aware of what this issue is. And I don't even know yet if we know what question it's going to be. And when it comes down to explaining things for voters, you got to keep things simple, and you got to make sure that they know what question it is and which way to vote on that question. So there's some of those details that, as those get firmed up and as we understand what those will be, that'll start to help form how we create public awareness.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the wording of those questions is very important as well. So yeah, okay, very interesting. Now, Tim, I know, none of this happens like in a bubble. Obviously, VIP Tires and Service is, really leading this effort in Maine. But you guys have been working with the Auto Care Association on this as well. Is that right? Can Can you give me some maybe history around that? Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Auto Care Association is, our umbrella organization that pretty much every company that's involved in the aftermarket is a member of, and VIP's been an active member. Our owner's been on the board years ago for the Auto Care Association, actually back when it was the AAIA. And so, their leadership on this issue of right to repair goes back over 10 years. And they were the ones who helped get this originally on the Massachusetts state ballot in 2013 or 2012, I believe it was. And that's the industry was able to hammer out a memorandum of understanding originally on the right to repair with the car manufacturers. And, unfortunately, the wireless data, what we call telematics data in the industry, was carved out of that agreement. And so that's really the reason for this second battle, if you will, around right to repair, is because we've now got to make sure that with these new cars that are coming off the factory lines, with all the wireless data that they produce, that repairers have access to the data that is required for diagnostic work and for repairing these vehicles.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know, multiple right to repair initiatives are out there right now, not only the one, you're working on in Maine, but I know the Massachusetts one that's been, in court. The Attorney General came out and said, they'll be enforcing that law June 1st. What that looks like is yet to be seen. And then there's the Federal Repair Act as well. So there's a lot of things going on with this issue. And I know you guys are, at the forefront and trying to cover it from all different angles. Tim, I'm curious if you could give me an example of, a shop situation in which telematics data, that you talked about that was carved out from that initial memorandum of understanding, which, is really at the heart of this right to repair legislation. If, is there a shop situation that, telematics data would need to be used to repair a vehicle? Maybe can you give me an example of one that, your locations have experienced or something like that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess the sort of the easiest one to cite today is a lot of the dash lights for the what they call MILs on like a Tesla.
Oh yeah.
Some Teslas, you can't plug a traditional scan tool into an OBD2 port and read the failure codes. So, my son works at one of our shops here in Maine, and they had a Tesla come in recently, 1,500 miles on it, traction control dash light. So they came in to get a sticker. They needed a, annual state inspection sticker, and we can't pass a vehicle if it's got an error code on the dash. There was a traction light that had to be accessed by a wireless transmission in order to get to that error code, and in order to determine, is this a failed sensor? Is this a sensor that needs to be reset? Is this a software update? There's all these things that are built into these newer cars today, and that all is not done through the OBD2 port. If you think about a technician's work for the last 15 years in diagnostic, much of that is done with a scan tool that plugs into the OBD2 port. Well, you plug the scan tool into the OBD2 port, and it's like you can't get to the information you need. And so, because today, much of that information is housed in other places or is transmitted wirelessly. So that's just one example, but there are other examples from other manufacturers as well. And really, this just comes down to, if you go spend time in one of our shops today and you've got these newer cars coming in, as those newer cars start tripping these diagnostic issues, that's really where our hands are tied, because we can't help the customer, and we have to tell the customer. In this case, my son's customer, that guy with 1,500 miles on his car had to drive from Maine back down to Boston to a Tesla dealership to get that diagnosed and to get that light turned off so he could come back up to Maine to get his inspection sticker.
Oh, geez. So not only is it sort of a headache for the consumer, but it's also a headache for, dealers like you guys who are trying to service vehicles and serve your customers in the way you've always known how to do. yet you can't because of, the vehicle, the way the vehicle's been produced, essentially. Is that right?
Essentially, that's exactly right. And I've made it a point to talk about this isn't just for repairers like ourselves. This is for consumers.
Right.
The history of the automobile is you buy a car and you can fix your own car, right? I mean, we have the DIY, the do-it-yourself industry is very healthy, and it's, billions and billions of dollars and these are many people who work on their own cars, and they've got their own scan tools at home, and they want to be able to do their own repairs. So,
Right.
if they buy a new car today, they should have full expectation that, as that car starts to have issues and failure codes, that owner of the vehicle itself should be able to go out and buy a tool or have access to a platform that allows them to get to this data to repair their vehicle, just like the car manufacturers and their dealership network should have that access, just like independent repairers like VIP should have that access as well.
Yeah, no, and makes total sense. And kind of going off of that, I'm curious, you mentioned as, the ramp up to this November election cycle and the ballot referendum for a right to repair in Maine. You guys will be spreading the word through, different signs around town and different things in the VIP locations in Maine. If a customer comes up and talks to, a service advisor or store manager, are there, and this is for other tire dealers too, not just, you guys necessarily, but are there points that, you would say, other tire dealers should be making to their customers if they ask about like, hey, what is this about? Like, will it really affect me? What can someone say to a consumer that's kind of interested in this topic and really hit home the importance of it?
Yeah, we've tried to do a lot of communication in our company for all of our managers and all of our associates. We share a lot of information at meetings, conferences, and send out, messages through email. Ultimately, really what for us, the bullet points are sort of consumer choice, right? And the Auto Care Association actually, when they originally initiated this, they had, I don't think it's live anymore, but their slogan they started using was "Your car, your data."
Right.
Right. So you own the car, you should be able to determine where that data goes. And those are kind of the bullet points: is consumers should have the choice to take it to a dealer, take it to an independent repair shop, or work on it themselves. That's what consumers should be able to choose when it comes to their vehicles. And at the heart of that is that the data that the car produces should be able to be directed by that consumer or accessed by that consumer. And so in the state of Maine, for instance, this citizens initiative and the bill that we're hoping to become law, that's really what it entails. Is it entails that we work together to create a standard access platform for that online data that a consumer should be able to access, or a consumer should be able to provide access to their repairer of choice.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, Tim, I wish you and your team and, the New England Tire Dealer Association and everyone involved the best of luck with this. Thanks so much again, and appreciate your time.
Thank you.